Today I'm going to cover another really great chess game played by Bobby Fischer. This game was played in 1965 at the New York Chess Championship. Anthony Saidy is playing the white pieces and Bobby Fischer is playing the black pieces here. So Saidy starts off with c4, which signifies the English opening. Knight f6 in response, knight c3, then we see e6, d4, bishop out to b4. And here Bobby Fischer is playing the Nimzo-Indian Defense, which is an extremely solid opening that allows black to castle very early on. So after e3 is played, we then see b6, knight out to e2, bishop out to a6, putting pressure on c4. So knight g3 is played, allowing this bishop to defend c4. Fischer then captures back on c3 with check, b takes c3, and after d5, Saidy plays a great move, knight f3, just looking to pin this pawn to the rook on a8, so that Fischer can't capture on c4 right away. After queen f3, Fischer just goes ahead and castles, e4, gaining central space and attacking black's center. Since e4 has been played, now capturing on c4 is possible. Fischer goes ahead and does that. White plays bishop out to g5, and here we have reached an approximately equal position. Black does have better king safety at the moment, but he has less central space. White has a little bit more space, but lacks in castling. Here, after bishop to g5, Fischer must respond with h6. If that is not played, maybe some move like knight to d7, then we could see e5, and this knight becomes pinned and could be captured. So therefore, h6 is the best defense. And here, Saidy made his first mistake. He should play bishop takes knight, and after queen takes, you might see this endgame happen. Queens trade off, and yes, black is currently up by a pawn, but does have a worse pawn structure, two sets of doubled pawns, plus an isolani on h6. So white would be doing okay here, even though white's down by a pawn currently. White could also look to gain up on this c4 pawn and try to recapture it at some point. This would have been playable, and much better than what happened in the actual game. Instead of that, white went bishop out to d2. The bishop on d2 is very passive, and it's almost as if white has lost a move here, because it's black's turn again. Instead, if white had just played bishop out to d2, and then black plays h6, now it's white's turn again. But in the actual game, the bishop moved out to g5, h6, then back to d2, and now it's black's turn again. Black plays knight on b to d7. That was Saidy's first mistake. White is still okay here. Bishop e2 probably needs to be played, then just castle to the king side, and look to try and recapture the c4 pawn at some point, and white would have a good game. Instead, Saidy played e5, and got a little greedy trying to gain too much space. This doesn't work out too well because it leaves this d5 square unprotected. Now Fischer gets an excellent knight on d5 that cannot be currently challenged by any pawns. The only pawn that could try to dislodge this knight is the c3 pawn, which can't move to c4 at the moment and may not be able to for a long time. So this knight on d5 is very well placed. It is controlling a lot of space here in the center, and also attacking white's weakest pawn in this pawn chain on c3. So that was the second mistake. After the knight moved out to d5, we see knight f5, and this is a third mistake. This is a tricky move, and if black plays some move like rook out to c8, then this could actually be very dangerous. White is probably hoping to play some move like knight takes h6. If pawn takes, play bishop takes with the idea of queen g4 check followed by checkmate. That is White's idea. It's a good idea in principle to take on h6 and have that type of an attack, but knight f5 is a mistake because it moves a piece twice in the opening, and it also opens up more lines to the white king, as we're going to see here in a little bit. So after e takes f5, queen takes on d5 is played, and we see that because this pawn has moved off the e file, there is now only one pawn on the e file, which means that white's king is more vulnerable. And Fischer sees this opportunity and plays rook out to e8. Now Saidy doesn't realize the danger here. He could probably play bishop e2 castle and would just simply be down by a pawn, not able to recapture on c4 immediately. This bishop on e2 would help bring another piece to the e file to help protect the king from checks. But instead bishop to c4 is played, and now Fischer plays this excellent move, knight takes e5, just opening up lines to the king, and there's all sorts of discovered attacks. Attack on the queen, 2 attacks on the bishop. This is very great move played by Fischer. So what is white to do here? I mean, the queen can't move, and if the queen does move, well then simply knight takes bishop would be winning material. So something must happen. Either the knight must be captured, or the queen must capture the queen. In the actual game, queen takes queen is played. We'll look at that in a moment. Let's look at the other reasonable option, which is simply to take the knight. It seems to defend everything at first, but it is going to be losing material. After queen takes queen, bishop must capture back. Then we have rook check, picking up the bishop, picking up the lost material. And here, the king can move out to d1. Black would take the bishop, and here black would be up by 2 pawns, even though one of them is a doubled pawn. Black is definitely much better here. This would have been white's best chance, though, because there is this bishops of opposite color that could allow black to possibly save the game. But even still, the king cannot castle, it's stuck in the center, and the rooks on a1 and h1 have not developed yet. So certainly black is leveled up in development, has the attack, has the material, that is most likely winning. Okay, so let's go ahead and reset this. There's a knight here, pawn here, there's a queen here, queen here. It was like this. Okay, so instead though, queen takes queen was played in the actual game. After queen takes, knight takes bishop with a discovered check, queen takes rook, rook takes back with check, king moves over to d1, knight takes bishop, king takes bishop, this is all forced, rook check, king out to c1. Now let's take a moment to look at this position. Black currently has 2 pawns and the bishop for the rook, so the material is equal. However, black is winning because white's king is stuck on the back rank. The rook on a1 is very passive, has not developed, and is stuck defending this a2 pawn, which is an isolated pawn that is very weak. In addition, the g2 pawn is under attack, must be defended. White's other rook has not developed either and is on h1, which if g3 is played, which was played in the actual game, then the h2 pawn is very weak and will fall. So this the game went on from here for several more moves, and then Fischer went on to win. Bishop out to b7 was played, rook out to e1, bishop e4, and here Fischer blocks off this rook from getting out to e7 so that it cannot attack on black's position. The game went on for several more moves, and then eventually white went ahead and resigned. But Fischer here is completely winning positionally. The material is currently equal. A2 is H2 is weak, A2 is weak. Another pawn will fall, so Fischer is going to be up by at least a pawn here. Not to mention having all of these passed pawns with the better king position. So thank you for watching. This was a really great game played by Fischer in the 1965 New York Chess Championship.